All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Give me a touchdown on the top prop bets today in the NBA for both PrizePicks and Underdog. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so looking at it, we are getting a pretty good slate size today. Looking at right now as well, we're not getting too much injury news. You know, yesterday it was more difficult given the injury news that we had out there. We didn't exactly know who was going to play or who was going to sit. At least today we have a good indication of what's going to occur on this slate, which is great. So with that, let's go ahead and do the game by game breakdown here. We got the Magic versus the Pistons, 6.5 point spread. Looking at a 228 over and under. Looking at the Pistons, they are going to be without Isaiah Stewart and Mike Muscala. Mike Muscala, not too big of a difference maker. That's going to shift some minutes to Danilo Gallinari potentially, and then also Kevin Knox. But with Isaiah Stewart out as well, Jalen Duren may be someone that we're looking at. Now, we know the matchup with Orlando has not been a matchup we've been wanting to target too much, but we'll touch on it. But looking at Orlando to start, they actually get a pretty good matchup going against Detroit for the most part. So Wendell Carter, I don't like the fact that I'm seeing rebounds and assists for his under. He is someone that has been getting a little bit more run recently. He is someone that I would have wanted to have bet the overs on. And like, I guess if we are trying to, we see points and rebounds at 21.5, a 52% chance to hit. You know, that's a decent one, but I say that because, yes, this has been a matchup we've been wanting to target, and he is someone that in games that have stayed relatively close, especially lately, he has gotten some run. Now, can we project him to get 36 plus minutes again tonight? No. That's kind of the issue with him as well. So it does feel a little bit too thin, and really the rest of the Magic are going to be a little bit too thin. Like, you could run out Wagner, who has been playing pretty well recently. He does get a good matchup as well. His points total does seem to be correct, but if I had to choose, you know, I would be choosing the over there. But yeah, for the most part, the Orlando props, they're correct. I mean, with everyone healthy and active for them, those are going to be correct. And so we look at Detroit, and what I'm looking at right now is actually I'm looking at with Isaiah Stewart off the court and with Marvin Bagley off the court, who benefits the most. Obviously, Bagley got traded for Mike Muscala and whatnot, but this should be a good sample size. And so looking at Jalen Duren specifically, because he is the prop bets that we are getting right now, his points, rebounds, and assists, his per 36 production with those two off the court is 15.5 points, 13.3 rebounds, so already at the over, but he doesn't add too many assists, but still 2.6 assists. So really, this does seem to be a pretty good prop bet that we are currently getting. The next player that gets the most minutes with those two players off the court is actually Jaden Ivey, and so the prop bets that we are getting on him, somewhat decent. His per 36 production is 5.4 rebounds, so a slight edge there. He actually averages 2.9 turnovers per 36. And averages 4.5 assists as well. So those two players that we're getting prop bets for, where the data is kind of suggesting the over on, you know, we can get behind that as well. Again, though, the issue is going to be the matchup here. The matchup with Orlando hasn't been one I've been actively trying to target. I don't think many people really have been trying to target them as well. Jalen Duren is someone that, typically speaking, not going to get 36 minutes, and that's also a little bit of a concern as well. So I don't know if I feel the need to bet this, but, you know, maybe you find some for Orlando that you like, some prop bets that you like for Orlando. Maybe you want to run out a game stack. I could see using Duren, and then I could also see using Jaden Ivey. The issue that I have really with Jaden Ivey is that Cade Cunningham's back. And so a little bit of a concern, but we do see in a few games now with Cade Cunningham back, playing about 20 or so minutes, 8 rebounds, 1 rebound, not good there, and then 7. So I guess that'd be the prop bet we'd want to roll with in that game. Now moving on to the next game, we got Washington versus the Suns. Washington is an 11-point dog. It's looking like a 238 over and under. Kyle Kuzma is going to be out for Washington. Bagley's out. Tyus Jones, game time decision. No one's really too banged up for Phoenix. I did just want to take a peek at this. So yeah, if Tyus Jones sits, that's going to shift a lot of usage to Jordan Poole. And so just looking at the data with Kyle Kuzma off the court, who benefits the most? Well, it is Bilal. But he is also currently questionable. So, like, we don't know what to do with that exactly. His per 36 production, for what it's worth, and he has been getting that run a lot of games recently, is 13.5 points, 5.7 rebounds, 2.4 assists. So, you know, he could be someone we're looking at. But for the prop bets that we are currently getting, Jordan Poole really doesn't get that much more run with Kyle Kuzma off the court. And Jordan Poole's per 36 production, again, we can't really bank on that, is 25.3 points, 3.4 rebounds. So, you know, I don't exactly love that. It's not too big of an edge. And 6 assists. And then Tyus Jones that actually gets significantly less minutes with Kyle Kuzma off the course. But I think those two just play together a lot. So it's tough to really gauge what happens there. Now, both Poole and Tyus Jones do get about an 8% bump in their usage, though, with Kyle Kuzma off the court in those limited sample sizes. So maybe there's something there. If you wanted to run out Tyus Jones for over points, the limited data that we have suggests that he averages 18.7 points. So maybe there's something there. But man, these feel a little bit too thin for me to really want to go in on. Like Denny, to me, is the one that naturally benefits the most, but the data is not really telling us that. But for what it's worth, we'll talk about Denny. So he is someone per 36, does average 16.7 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 5.4 assists with Kyle Kuzma off the court. And so again, that does still feel to be too thin, especially in a game that's has the potential to be a blowout. I really don't like any of those props. So let's go ahead and look at Phoenix. And so we know the theme with Phoenix. It's like they are getting a good matchup going against Washington now. For the most part, we typically like targeting bigs against Washington, but really everyone should benefit. I could see running out a game stack, but to me, there's also not really any prop bets here that currently stick out. So let's move on into the next game here. And in the next game, we got the Pacers versus Charlotte, 9.4 for a spread, 237 for the over and under. Looking at the injury report, LaMelo Ball out, Gordon Hayward game time decision. He could finally be back. Mark Williams could finally be back as well. Kyle Lowry is out though. Looking at the Pacers, Jalen Smith was a late scratch on the last slate. Miles Turner is going to be out. And then we got to get news. How many minutes is Halliburton going to play? He's not been playing that many minutes. Bennett Mathurin, got to see if he's going to play as well. I'm a little bit surprised that we are getting Pacers props, but I guess it does make sense for Bruce Brown, who really doesn't get that big of a bump data-wise with any of those players out. Like his role is pretty much defined. He doesn't get a big bump here or there. He's not going to get really more shot attempts up. He's not going to handle the basketball that much more. So this does make sense. To me, it's not a prop bet that I personally feel like I need to go out of my way to make. So let's go ahead and jump into the other side of this game. And I don't think we're getting many props for this. Actually, we are. And so looking at it right now, it's tough to say what we should do. In games that have stayed close, Nick Richards is someone that is gaining a ton of run. But that's obviously the issue with Charlotte. And when it stays out of foul trouble, I should say. With the game projected to potentially be a blowout, I don't know if we need to go in on Nick Richards. His points one would be the one that the data says to go in on. Again, I don't really know if we need to go in on that. Brandon Miller has been someone that's been playing extremely well in the absence of LaMelo Ball. Miles Bridges has seen a big increase in his role. Terry Rozier's out as well. And then Cody Martin as well has been getting a little bit more run. You can see he's getting about 30 minutes per game now. And it's a strange slate. Like I don't really think we are getting many great props just yet. Even this one, where his points, rebounds, and assists at 18.5, that just seems to be correct. Like, yeah, maybe we have a slight edge there, but I don't need to go out of my way to bet that. So I do want to take a peek at Brandon Miller just to see what props we're getting for him. Points, rebounds, and assists. Yeah, that's at 30.5 now. That's probably correct. The line that we're getting, that's why it's at 50%. But let's just say this game does stay close. It's going to be because of him. I mean, look at the shot attempts. 19, 21, 19, 18. All those games without Terry Rozier and without LaMelo Ball. He is the one that the data has said does benefit the most. And I love the fact that he has been benefiting the most. And the thing with it is, like, in a couple of these games that have been blowouts, he has still gone on the run. And so I want to see what his fantasy score line is going to be. It's probably going to be at like 35. And I would still want to bet the over there, I think. It could be a little bit too tight there, but what's his points at? That could be a decent one. 22.5. Yeah. Obviously, this is a better sportsbook bet than PrizePicks bet, where we're not getting an advantage over PrizePicks or Underdog, but definitely an interesting line there. So let's jump into the Grizzlies versus the Celtics. So my assumption is that someone for the Celtics is going to sit. This is an 18-point spread. So we got Jaylen Brown currently questionable. Why play him? And we have seen the Celtics do this time and time again, especially in lesser matchups. And obviously Memphis is extremely banged up. That's kind of why I'm expecting some players to sit. So I do want to take a peek at the other injury report just to get a good gauge of really what's happening in this game. So Vince Williams, currently a game time decision, have no idea if he's going to play. John Contra, don't know if he's going to play as well. But I do think it's worth calling out that Luke Kennard is back. Now, he didn't play that many minutes in his last game, but maybe he's a candidate to get more run tonight. That would be a concern. And then Jacob Gilyard, he's playing a little bit more as well, 32 minutes in his last game. Maybe that's something that continues for him. I don't know if you guys saw the block that he had on Curry. That was pretty funny. Scottie Pippen Jr. is someone that's been playing well. Wouldn't be surprising to see him continue to get some run. And then I do want to talk about Derrick Rose being back. Derrick Rose played 15 minutes, got 12 points in 15 minutes. So I don't really feel the need to go in on any of those prop bets that we are going to be getting for Memphis, but we're not getting prop bets just yet for them because, well, we don't know what's going to happen. And it's pure speculation as to what would happen. And just looking at it right now, like Aldama has been a consistent producer. He's like the only one that had been gaining a decent amount of run up until the last game. And so Jaren Jackson Jr., he's ruled out. We don't really know what to do there. Gregory Jackson, GG Jackson, someone that would get more run as well, should get more run. But we just have no indication of really what we should be looking at. David Rodney, maybe someone that, gets 30 plus minutes in this game. He should. But man, I want to be on some prop bets for Memphis because I think we could benefit. But we have no idea what the minutes are going to be like for Memphis. And then looking at Boston, again, I do think Jaylen Brown, who's currently questionable, why play him, right, against Memphis? And so if he does sit, we're going to see Tatum get a slight bump. For sure, he gets a big bump in usage, actually, with Jaylen Brown off the court. Drew Holiday at points and rebounds there at 17.5. I'd be fine betting the over there. Porzingis is everyone gets a bump. Like Derek White gets a bump. We know this. We've seen this a bunch already. All the starters get a slight bump. Al Horford probably jumps into the starting lineup then, and maybe he's somewhere we're looking at, but it still is a guessing game. I mean, in terms of like props betting, they go 6 deep when everyone's active, and when everyone's not active, it's 5 deep. So it's still very difficult because anyone can have a bad night, anyone can have a really good night for Boston. And so for me, again, let's just move on into the next game. And so we got the Clippers versus the Heat, 4.5 point spread or so, 224.5 is going to be the over and under. Looking at Zubac game time decision. We got to see what we want to do with Mason Plumlee. And then Duncan Robinson, he is out. That should mean more minutes for Josh Richardson. But when we look at kind of what's been going on with the Heat, Tyler Hero's role has definitely been reduced with Terry Rozier back, or there. He's playing 30 minutes or so. They're basically doing the exact same thing on the court. Josh Richardson is also someone that has been playing a lot more minutes recently as well. And so especially with Duncan Robinson off the court, he's expected to get more run. Jimmy Butler is finally playing better recently because, well, they kind of need to put their foot on the pedal here. Kind of needs to go into playoff Jimmy mode a little bit earlier, it seems like. Jaime Jaquez is back. He is starting to see an uptick in minutes. He is someone that, for a while there was kind of their best player other than Bam, while Jimmy Butler was going through some things and whatnot, injury-wise. So tough to say what we'd want to do there. And then Bam, he gets a fine matchup. We're not getting truly great prop bets there. I will say Jimmy Butler for over points, rebounds, and assists is the one prop bet that I feel comfortable betting for this game. There's been 2. Brandon Miller and Jimmy Butler are the 2 points, rebounds, and assist props that I kind of like so far. And you guys can see it's another tight slate, especially with us not having the fantasy score prop bets just yet. Hopefully we get those by the end of this video. But yeah, Jimmy Butler I could get behind. Looking at the Clippers, they have been playing well, but this is going to be a more difficult matchup going against the Miami Heat. And so it's kind of another one of those spots, especially with Russell Westbrook playing better recently as well. I really don't feel the need to target anyone here. I will mention James Harden does get a pretty darn good matchup, both going against Tyler Hero now and also Terry Rozier defense. Those guys are both getting 30 plus minutes. I do like that a decent amount. That's kind of a shift with Miami. They're going to be a little bit worse defensively, I think, just a little bit better offensively, obviously, with Rozier there. So maybe you could talk me into Harden for over points, rebounds, and assists. Maybe there's a little game stack that you want to roll with. I could get behind that. Jumping into the Raptors versus the Thunder. I really do like targeting the Raptors recently. Just after that trade, they got so much worse defensively. I think it's kind of a soft spot for us. This is an 8.5 point spread, almost a 240 game total, so a higher scoring game. RJ Barrett game time decision. Got to see if he's going to play, but quickly is going to be back. He was back in the last game. Looking at the Thunder, they are still going to be without Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams. And so one of the stranger things with Jalen Williams and Isaiah Joe being out is that Josh Giddey has not benefited with those 2 players being off the court. And it's like his minutes have actually gone down. So that's extremely strange to me. He has been someone that we just don't need to play. Carson Wallace has been getting a decent amount of run in that absence of Isaiah Joe and also Jalen Williams. But we've just seen Dort, for the most part, be a little bit more consistent, but again, a little bit too thin there. Aaron Wiggins is someone that's been getting a little bit more run. Kendrick Williams here or there can get a little bit more run, but they've really just been extending their bench a few more minutes, and it's still the same players are going off. SGA has been obviously on an insane stretch of basketball, and this is obviously going to be a good match for him as well. And then Chet Holmgren, I do think I can get behind him as a play. If Toronto is going to be beating, or sorry, if OKC is going to be beating Toronto, I think it's going to come because Chet Holmgren's having a very good game. And I also think it's going to be because SGA has a really good game. I will say we might get a good Dort prop fantasy score wise, looking at his points, rebounds, and assists at 16.5. If his fantasy score is at 18.5, I do think I'll be comfortable betting the over there. SGA for over points, rebounds, and assists at 46.5. You know, that does seem to be very high, right? I think it's correct, though. Like, I probably would want to bet the over there as well if I had to. But I think the best prop bet here is going to be Chet Holmgren for over points, rebounds, and assists. Again, I just think that matchup with Toronto is a much better one. And then, yeah, Joachim Poeltl's back as well. That's something I should have mentioned as well. But with RJ Barrett questionable, I don't know exactly what we should be doing here. I will say quickly, if he is getting his full allotment of minutes, this is vastly too low of a line that we are getting on him right now. And if you look at quickly, he is someone that since he has joined the Raptors has been getting a ton of run with them. Even in the last game, his first game back from injury, 30 minutes in that game. That game was a blowout as well. So I don't think we need to worry about the minutes being restricted at all. And he had a very good game in that game as well. He went back to his normal role. And I do think with RJ Barrett being off the court, he is going to get a shift in usage. He's going to get a little bit more shots up. He's going to get a little bit more, maybe not more assists, but he's just going to be handling the basketball more. So maybe we're just looking at his points prop, but at the same time, points, rebounds, and assists, I'd be fine with as well. And I'm actually curious, are we getting quickly points? 18.5. That does seem to be too low. The data doesn't like the over here. I do. I think that's a decent edge that we are getting there. And I do want to take a peek at Joachim Poeltl because he is someone that when he gets minutes, we know he's good. Only 20 minutes in that game. It's tough to say whether that was because of the game flow or if that was by plan. He did get 6 fouls in that game as well. That's also something we always worry about with him, is getting into foul trouble. But he is someone on a points per minute basis is very good. He's a very productive points per minute type player. So looking at this line, if he does get us 25 minutes in this game, he should be able to get this over as well. So I really hate that the data is telling us to bet the under there too. Like I'd feel very good about these two prop bets if the data was saying the opposite. If the data was telling us to bet the over. If the sports books, agreed. So frustrating there. I think I will still go with quickly over points. That does feel like a good one. Even if RJ Barrett is active, if RJ Barrett's active, it's kind of like the Philly. I'll use this as an example. Like Tobias Harris being ruled out actually really vastly hurt Maxey yesterday because the game was much more likely to be a blowout then. And then Maxey just didn't get his minutes. If Harris is active, he probably does get his over points yesterday. That was a prop that was on yesterday. So I think using quickly as an example is a good example because with RJ Barrett out, that just increases the likelihood of that game being a blowout. Thus, quickly would not get his minutes. So we have 2 more games left here, or a few more games, I guess. Rockets versus Timberwolves. Okay. 7-point spread, 220 is going to be the over and under there. Taking a peek at the injury report, Rudy Gobert game time decision. Obviously, that is important news. If he sits, obviously Towns is going to benefit, but we don't. I'll take a peek at the injury report here. Yeah, currently a game time decision. So Towns is someone that definitely benefits with Rudy Gobert off the court. And I'm surprised that we are getting Karl-Anthony Towns props because if Rudy Gobert is off the court, like rebounds and like really all the prop bets that we're getting for Karl-Anthony Towns, we should be liking the over with. So that's definitely interesting. Ant-Man does get a slight bump with Rudy Gobert off the court as well, but it's mostly Towns. So definitely strange that we're getting props. Maybe that, that's risk reward. If Gobert sits, you're getting a big edge. If he plays, Towns still has a good chance to get his over points, rebounds, and assists. Looking at this is one of the better data prop bets that we were getting. It's Jabari Smith for over points and assists at 10.5. And to me, that seems vastly too low. Yes, he is someone that we can't always count for the minutes to be there, but against Minnesota where they're running out 2 bigs, and yes, it is a more difficult matchup, don't get me wrong there as well, but they need to get him run in this game going against Minnesota that runs out 2 bigs. Assuming Rudy Gobert plays now. Yeah, that seems way too low to me. Like if he gets into foul trouble, sure, not going to help there, but man, that seems too low. I think I really do like that one. That just seems like it should be much higher. Jalen Green has been someone that has been going off recently. Will that continue against Minnesota? Tough to say. Fred VanVleet, it kind of feels like you're choosing one or the other. I don't need to go out of my way to play either of those two. So let's move on into the next game. We have the Bucks versus the Utah Jazz. Surprisingly, only a 2-point spread. 246.5 is going to be the over and under. Looking at Brook Lopez game time decision, he sat out the last game. I think he's going to be good to go in this game. And so looking at the prop bets that we are getting in this game, I do still like Brook Lopez, even though he was ruled out yesterday. The chances of him getting a lot of minutes, I think, just increased then now in this game. And so this is a decent matchup again. The thing with it is, like, Doc Rivers is very much known to gain his vets some run, and really I wonder if maybe Chris Middleton on the back end of back-to-back is going to sit after gaining 38 minutes. That was very tilting that Brook Lopez or that Chris Middleton did not have a good night shooting last night, because we were correct about him having the increased minutes, and it was a very high scoring game. That was one of those calls yesterday that was correct, but it just didn't work out. That'll happen. But even still, like, I do wonder if Middleton's minutes are going to come down even if he does play. But that being said, yeah, Brook Lopez in this game should get a lot of run in this game, especially because Bobby Portis had 31 minutes in that game. That is out of the norm for him as well. That being said, Giannis should be able to go off. He just had 40 minutes in that game. I mean, that's the thing with Doc Rivers, is that his vets are going to play a ton. Dame played 38 minutes. Like, they're all getting an increase in minutes. And to be honest, guys, if MVP wise, if Giannis is going to be averaging about 2 to 3 more minutes per game, and they're one of the best teams in the league still, like, I don't see how he doesn't win the MVP. I know the NBA media always likes to move on into the next one, but those slight increase in minutes, that could be a decent edge there for MVP voting, especially with how close it is right now. But yeah, again, I don't think the market has truly adjusted for just how many minutes the Bucks players are going to be playing. So I do like Brook Lopez for over points, rebounds, and assists, assuming that he plays that much, especially in this matchup against Utah. And then looking at Utah, do we need to go in on any of these props? Well, Colin Sexton does play some good basketball, especially in easier matchups, and he has been playing extremely well when he has gotten the minutes. That's the issue right now, is that he just hasn't been getting the minutes. That game against Philly, 25 minutes, he played well, had 22 points in that game. You know, in the game against New York, 28 minutes, 22 points. Like, it is just strange that they don't want to give him more runs. So is it a little bit too risky? Yes. At the same time, if you're running out of games, that I'd be fine with it. You want to do points and assists, you could. Lauri Markkanen and John Collins are still getting some runs. So Lauri Markkanen at 34.5 points, rebounds, and assists does seem to be a little bit too low for me as well. Given the game, like, this is a very close scoring game. It's also supposed to be a higher scoring game. So that to me seems that we know with John Collins, like, when he gets the minutes, he's getting his over points, rebounds, and assists. So I don't mind that. I do think we are getting a decent game stacking opportunity here, given how Vegas thinks this game's going to go. And again, John Collins at 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists, that's really just about on him getting 30 minutes. And if the game total is right, if the spread is right, it's going to be because, well, probably Colin Sexton getting over 20 points, Lauri Markkanen getting over points, rebounds, and assists, and also John Collins. And now getting into the last game on the slate, another potential blowout, 14-point spread. Denver is favored to win over the Portland Trailblazers. Looking at the Portland Trailblazers, Jeremy Grant was a late scratch in his last game. Sharp is still out there. Looking at Denver, KCP game time decision, that's not going to matter too much, but it wouldn't be surprising to see him say, given the nature of this game, given the fact that it's projected to be a blowout. And so looking at the prop bets that we're getting, you know, I'm fine with Jamal Murray over 3.5 rebounds. I just, I don't want to mess around with a game that has that big of a spread. Looking at Portland, DeAndre Ayton over rebounds, sure, I could see that. You know, if he gets 28 minutes, 25 minutes even in this game, again, it's a blowout, so we worry about that, but I could see him getting that over. Simons has been playing better recently. Points, rebounds, and assists does seem to be slightly too low. Same thing with Ayton. Like, if this game stays close, these two are going to really crush their overs for points, rebounds, and assists. You could run that out. Quickly, just showing you guys the prop bets that we're getting edges on for underdog right now. Again, I'm skipping kind of over these ones, these blocks, turnovers, steals, 3 points made, because while they're all prop line differences that we're measuring there, these all pretty much are slight edges, but I don't feel the need to go in on those. So really what I'm looking at, Jalen Duren for over points, rebounds, and assists, that's a good prop bet on underdog. Joachim Poeltl for over rebounds and assists, those are extremely decent ones there. High likelihood there to get over 8.5, that's why that just got bumped. Jaden Ivey for over 3.5 rebounds, those were two of the ones that I pointed out earlier. I'm kind of okay with those two. And then from there, not too much. Now we are getting some good college basketball props as it sits right now. So AJ Storr, my Badgers are playing Purdue. And so I really hope that this one doesn't hit, but that's one of the better ones that we have today. We actually have 5 really good fantasy score prop bets. If you guys used the one from yesterday on Underdog, you went 4 for 5. The one that was close didn't go our way. All the other ones really hit easily. So hopefully you guys had a good day underdog wise. But right now as it sits, we are getting some good edges prize picks wise for college basketball props. I was wishing that we would be getting those underdog props fantasy score wise by the time this video was being recorded. Or not. And I say that because obviously that's been a pretty big edge. So let's go in and get into the bet of the day. First and foremost, I am running these 4 out on PrizePicks. We'll see if they hit. That's going to be one of my bets of the day, just as an FYI. Then I'll show you guys the NBA. All right, and just a reminder, guys, before I show you guys the bet of the day, just want to call it, like, fantasy score props are the ones that I'm concentrating on the most throughout the day and whatnot. Just double check the 9 to 5 cheat sheet before you place some of those bets, seeing if there's any better ones. Like, for example, and I'll show you guys the underdog bet of the day right now. It's that, like, Brandon Miller for over points, rebounds, and assists. Like, if his fantasy score is only at like 33.5 or something like that, I like that over. Same thing with Jalen Duren. Like, if this isn't over like 30, I think that's a good over bet. The data is telling us that these are the 2 best bets that we are currently getting on underdog. I like going with Brandon Miller for over points, rebounds, and assists, hoping that game doesn't blow out, hoping that he's part of the reason as to why. We have seen he has gotten those shot attempts up. I like that, but at the same time, maybe we are going to get those slight edges on fantasy score prop bets like we typically do. I mean, there's a reason why those come out last, because those are the biggest edges that we are getting on a daily basis. And then looking at the PrizePicks bet of the day, I am rolling with the 2 that the data likes the most, and I kind of agree with as well. So Joachim Poeltl, over 9 rebounds and assists. Probably a chance that this can be a push. He is someone that typically can score as well. If he gets 25 plus minutes, his PRA at 17.5, he should be able to get that over. He's another one where I'm monitoring his fantasy score prop. We could be getting a good one there. Jabari Smith, again, more difficult matchup against Minnesota, but given the fact that Minnesota does run out 2 bigs, and Reed as well is a big that gets a lot of minutes as well, Jabari Smith should be getting a lot of minutes. He just needs to make a few buckets, right? Give us those 30 minutes against Minnesota like I'm expecting. He should be able to hit that over. Then I do think Brook Lopez is going to get a lot of run in this game, like we have seen Doc Rivers consistently do, especially given the fact that he sat out on the front end of a back-to-back yesterday. And then John Collins, and I could see Chris Middleton staying, just as an FYI. And then John Collins. Vegas thinks that game is going to be close and a high-scoring game. And if it is, well, we know John Collins is someone that gets a lot of minutes in a close game, 30-plus minutes. And he has consistently gotten this over in games where he is getting 30-plus minutes. So I do think that's a good one as well. That's going to be all for this video. Again, if you guys want access to the 9 to 5 Sports cheat sheet, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Available for just $10 a month. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.